Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today as we're talking about the Ruthless Aggression edition number 2 of the documentary series that is being played on the WWE Network. Talked about the Ruthless Aggression. I was really looking forward to watching these series of documentaries. I honestly still am. First one, I honestly said that they talked about 3 topics that have been talked to death. But because of the fact that the Ruthless Aggression was kind of a period where I stepped away from wrestling and I wasn't watching as much because of what was going on in my life, I was looking forward to seeing, what they were going to talk about. And in the first one, they ended up talking a lot about the 2002 WWE Draft, splitting up Raw and SmackDown, putting the rosters on 2 shows. Stone Cold Steve Austin basically taking his ball and going home after the Monday Night Raw, where they asked him to lose to Brock Lesnar in the King of the Ring qualifier. And then The Rock, his budding Hollywood career, taking him away from the WWE, going off to make movies. Edition number 2 really struck me that it was going to be a good edition. Documentary on John Cena. This to me looked like it was basically a little bit more of an expanded documentary that was released quite a few years ago, possibly around 2005. Word Life from John Cena. They told the story of John Cena, of basically him coming into Ohio Valley. The only reason why they found him is because they were actually watching the tape to see if they wanted to pull up Rico to Monday Night Raw, and Rico was currently working in a tag team with John Cena, and immediately they said, "Who's this guy? He's very entertaining. He has the look. This looks like somebody that we want to bring up to the main roster." Of course, we all know that Rico would come up to the main roster. Yes, he would be a wrestler, but I think he kind of is remembered more for being like the manager of 3 Minute Warning, the manager of Billy and Chuck. He had an in-ring career. I don't really remember it all that well, but he was in the company. He got his chance, and now I think he's in Las Vegas as a detective. Luke Cara has him in the Man Club, and always talks about him. And actually tried to meet him one time on a trip to Vegas a few years ago. But they showed some clips of John wrestling and doing promos in Ohio Valley, and he was very catchy. He came there as the prototype, and a lot of people said that he kind of was what The Rock was, the WWE main roster is what he was in Ohio Valley. He was probably the best guy to carry an interview. Basically, anytime he picked up the microphone, he was going to say something that meant something and it was going to be memorable. He just had to, get his skills to the point where he was going to be able to achieve. Vince McMahon called the main roster to the ring one time and then basically was talking about the fact that they had lost their stars and he was looking for somebody to step up and grab that brass ring. And of course, in this promo, he said what he's looking for is ruthless aggression. And there was a point when Kurt Angle came down to the ring and basically said that he wanted to prove to Vince that he had what Vince was looking for. And he was going to show Vince what ruthless aggression was and made an open challenge to anybody in the back that was answered by John Cena. John Cena came out. This was the very first time. I don't even think he was ever used as sort of like a backstage extra or anything like that. He just basically came out, and Michael Cole said this was John Cena. They had been hearing a lot about him making his way up to the WWE ranks. And this was him making his debut. And he wrestled about a 12 to 15 minute match against Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle got the win in this match, but it was one of those, matches that even though you didn't win, was able to show that you were able to hang with somebody on the main roster and somebody that was in the WWE title picture. Definitely, if he wasn't wrestling in the main event, he was going to be wrestling in the second most important match on a pay-per-view. Sort of shows you what kind of draw Angle had at the time. And when he came to the back, he was greeted by The Undertaker and sort of given a shine of respect for being able to have that kind of a match out there, and shows that he deserved to be there. What I remember more than anything else about this time is that The Undertaker, after beating Hulk Hogan for the Unified. I'm pretty sure it was called the Unified Championship at that time. It was after WrestleMania 17, where Triple H beat Yeah, Triple H beat Jericho. That's where they brought the new belt out, and they retired the Attitude belt and the WCW belt. And then the very next month, Hogan beat Triple H, and then Undertaker beat Hogan. And so, Undertaker was a heel at that time, and for him to be congratulating somebody on a good match, especially when he's not winning, that was a big deal. Bruce Pritchard came out and said that that was something that happened in real life, and they decided to capture it for the show. I honestly feel like that's 100% bullshit, Bruce. but that's just me. And from there, they talked about the fact that Cena basically bought 40 pairs of wrestling tights, and the one thing that he thought he was going to use to try and gain attention on the main roster was he was going to match what he was wearing to the sports team in that town, whether if it was their football team, college team, hockey team, anything that would help get him more of a little bit of a pop from the crowd and get them behind him. John Cena came right out and basically said anybody who remembers anything from the Ruthless Aggression version of John Cena and says anything positive about it is lying and not remembering it the way that it was. You can say that you were a John Cena fan, but John Cena himself basically says that everything that he did during that era, he did it wrong. And he basically was sat down and told that he was going to be a part of the Christmas cuts, and he was going to be let go in the late part of November before Thanksgiving. And that he basically blew his chance in WWE, and he was going to have to leave and find a new job and find what he was going to do with the rest of his life. But we all know the story. On a European tour, John went to the back of the bus with Rikishi and Rey Mysterio and decided to show off his freestyling ranks. In the front of that bus was Stephanie McMahon. She was very interested in what he did, asked basically what freestyling was, thought that he was writing his material, and he had to show that he basically made up what he was talking about. And she said, fine, if you're actually making up what you say you're making up, rap about this can of tuna fish. And basically Cena said that he delivered a rap about Stephanie, about the tuna fish, about the plane, and the destination that they were going to. And that's basically what they were saying that they did, and that basically led to Cena becoming Vanilla Ice and delivering, I think, 2 or 3 different raps. They were very short, and then from that basically turned into John Cena becoming the rapper persona that we know. That became Dr. Thuganomics. Who was the guy that came out with him? It wasn't Chuck Palumbo. Shoot, I can't remember who it was that was his bodyguard that he had at that time. But they basically only showed it once. They didn't talk about him. But this is kind of where everything just gets condensed. They told the very beginning part of that story in a very lengthy time, and it seems like everything from the Dr. Thuganomics, they immediately showed him rapping at WrestleMania 19, Kurt Angle coming into it looked like a private locker room that was the size of a locker room for a Major League Baseball team. What's up, babe? Sorry about that. But this is the part of the video where basically everything gets just condensed. They show Cena doing his rap. They don't actually physically show it, but you see Kurt Angle walking into his personal locker room at WrestleMania 19, watching it on the TV, and Angle basically giving the endorsement that this is the guy that is going to be the next guy that runs this company. And from there, they go all the way until WrestleMania 20, where they're showing him winning the United States Championship, going to WrestleMania 21, winning the WWE Championship. Well, I think he actually won the other one. I can't remember what they called the other belt at the time, but he beat JBL at WrestleMania 21, and then the build up to WrestleMania 22, where basically everybody turns on him in Chicago, and then it just becomes a very cool thing where everybody's going to hate him. During this time is where Cena notices that WWE is actually physically changing. I think Cena is almost taking charge for them going with the PG route. They basically, at this point, the people that hate Cena are going to hate him, and he just basically says that he went to Vince and he says he was going to stop rapping, which is because he started noticing younger and younger fans showing up at his autograph sessions, showing up at the shows with their family, and it needed to be more of a family show. And, when he was doing this rapping, he was the guy that basically said the dirty words, and, that's kind of what got him over and was going in a different route. Maybe, Vince, grouped off of that and basically made it more of a wholesome show. And I think the PG thing happened in like 2009, 2010. And sort of it took some time for them to get there completely. But that's when basically the raunchy television started. And maybe it was John Cena's fault. People have blamed Mattel. People have blamed Linda McMahon's run for Senate. They've blamed a lot of things for them to get there. But who knows? But Cena, of course, was going to induct the Refrigerator Perry into the WWE Hall of Fame for what he did at WrestleMania 2. At the Hall of Fame is where everybody just sort of just said that they hated him and they didn't want him to be there. Triple H was supposed to be the heel, but Triple H wasn't the heel that night in the eyes of the WWE fan. And of course, all of that seemed like it was just grouped into like 20 minutes. It seemed like they showed a whole bunch of stuff in a very limited amount of time. And it wasn't, a complete, even if they were only going to, show that first 4 to 5 year span of John Cena, I felt like the Word Life documentary would have done a lot better than, sort of repackaging it in, a 40-minute time period. If you weren't able to do what you did in the other one, you just should have showed the other one. I'm hoping that, what we see for Brock and what we see for Orton, Shelton Benjamin, the other ones that I'm hoping that we're going to see, I'm hoping they're going to be better.